what to write about. Trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist. Am I worth anything or just this gal?
That was a great sounds of Watching with Outside on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Prestige, with my partner in crime, Long Island raised, Elm City made, EZ BlueZ is in the building. EZ BlueZ, your better introductions more than me. Who do we have with us today on Behind the Brand?
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to grab the seatbelt of that DeLorean. I want you to buckle it up. We're going to throw it into 88 and we're going to go back. We're going to go back to the before times when you could come and go as you please, the before times when it did not matter, the before times when you were just out because you could be out and it was fun. I'd gotten a wonderful, wonderful message one day. Hey, this amazing musician, wants an opener. Can you do it? I'm here. Show up to this incredible venue, which is now the Cellar in Treadwell. And it was the coolest, most down-to-earth person I have met in my entire existence. Like, when I tell you, just a normal, incredible human being. On top of that, I recorded his entire set because he's captivating, even with just the guitar and the voice. So much so that he said, I've never gotten this much video before. Usually it's one song and we're done. I was like, I had nothing to do for 2 hours. It's cool. But that is the caliber of human being. On top of that, some of the best songwriting structures and visuals you are going to see in music today. We talk all the time that you have the pop radio and everyone wants to break through there, but the real individuals on the independent hustle that are moving and shaking and doing these things, whether his own material or playing drums for one of my songwriting heroes. Let us put our hands together. Not if we're driving. If we're driving, we keep our hands at 10 and 2. We don't need any accidents. But mentally, I want you to put your hands together, align your chakras perfectly for the amazing, the incredible, very dear friend of ours, of mine, and of this show, Stephen Chopek. Brother, how you been?
I'm good, man. Good to see you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for that warm welcome. I appreciate it.
No problem. That's what we're here for, man. And just so people, who don't 100% know, you have been an active musician career-wise now for how many years? Looking like 4 or 5, 372?
About that. I mean, I've been playing for a long time, and full-time, I've been doing it since, I'll say, the early 2000s. 2001-ish, 2000, 2001, and been kind of been on that train since then.
Now, a lot of people will, obviously they're going to look at it like, well, it didn't have a house in MTV Cribs, so how could this, whatever. But people don't necessarily understand when also you can treat this like an artistic business. There's more success than just the big house and big cars. Again, you're able to do what you love and be financed. How did you go down that path? It's not like you have the major label pulling upon you, but here you are for over 20 years, almost 20 years,
yep,
doing this professionally.
Yeah, that's a good question. And sometimes I kind of, ask myself the same thing. How did this happen? How did I get here? David Byrne, I believe, put that in a song. How do I work this? And so my situation, I mean, everybody's situation is unique. Mine specifically, I came up with this kind of recently, this little tag: drummer by trade, songwriter by choice. So kind of my, I don't know if you want to call it, day job. I mean, I'm a drummer. I'm drummer for hire. I play with a bunch of people. I do a lot of sideman work for bands and songwriters, and live recording in the studio, and more recently in my home studio doing remote tracks for people. So in addition to that, about 10 years or so ago, I started writing songs and releasing my own music. And those two things have fed themselves. They fed themselves creatively and financially as well. They're all kind of they work, on a good day. They're working together. They inform my decisions for each one, and they both kind of keep me afloat.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And like, how would someone, because what we love about this show in particular is we love to take that story and show people that, hey, practice, do what you're going to do, and you can do this as well, because a lot of people lose sight of that. What is a path for like a session music, especially a drummer?
That's a good question. A path for a session musician. So I'm currently in my right away. My mind goes to kind of geography, and what you want to do and where your kind of immediate surroundings dictate that, and how that can work for or against you. So I'm in Atlanta now. I moved here to Atlanta a little over 2 years ago, end of 2020. Moved here. Before that, I was in Memphis. And then before that, I was born and raised in New Jersey, right outside of Manhattan. So that's kind of where I came up studying and doing gigs and doing recording sessions and things. And that was a big part of my, we want to call it networking, however you feel about that word. That was a big part of what I did and where I got to where I was, as far as seeking out people to study with, and how those relationships led to opportunities, and how I was able to move on those opportunities and other opportunities moving to the next. I mean, as you know, Dustin, you're in Connecticut, and anywhere music community or communities, artistic communities are pretty tight knit. And I found that wherever I went, being in Memphis, being in Atlanta, some cities are smaller, some are bigger, and some communities are tighter, some are more spread out. But there's always a thread that goes between the players in a particular town or particular city, especially in the, for people who are doing it full time, for people who are doing it professionally, session musicians, and ideally you kind of get in with that group and you make a reputation yourself, and you become somebody who's reliable and who's professional and who's good at what they do, and can be called on for whatever the task at hand is, for whatever the session might be. So that's a big part of it, I think, where you are. And which is to say, New York isn't the only place, Memphis isn't the only place, Atlanta isn't the only place. Every town, every city is going to have their community. And I think the main thing is making a good name for yourself, doing everything that you can to improve your skills on your instrument, and also realizing that there's more to it than just being a good player. Got to be a cool person, good hang, know how to keep time, not just in drummer world, keep time, but like tell time, as in showing up on time, and knowing your material, and there's three things. Be prepared, be on time,
a great team player,
and be cool.
Yeah,
and be cool.
Yeah, no, and that's that's one of the key things too, and really is something that I guess I was doing naturally, but I didn't really realize that it could be done as a networking aspect. Is just genuinely being a good person, genuinely being interested in the art that's happening there. There are many times, and there's a whole bunch of local musicians that will say, "Oh, I opened for so and so, and he showed up 5 minutes before he had to go on, and he didn't even shake my hand." And like, we still have conversations. I can, there is a genuine connection because you're genuinely a good person, and you genuinely a good conversation, and that can help grow. That can get you into spots, that can, wind up. I was able to send you a video that I was not so happy, and you're like, yeah, no, this isn't exactly what you were going for. I could see that you were holding back a little bit.
Right.
And that's the advice that is so clear and so poignant. Where did you make that choice and decision? Because especially in the entertainment industry, on that next level thing, where a lot of these young cats are striving to be the next big thing, more power to them. we want to tell them the other story, that there is that safety net can be in the creation of music itself, right? But you have to make that choice to be a cool person, to not let the ego happen, to not be like, oh, well, I got a 1.5 million streams right now, which we all know in dollars and cents, you made $11.14. But whatever, million plus streams still sounds really cool.
Right.
But how are you able to stay that humble aspect while you are, one, making a living doing what you love, which is really what all of us other musicians are trying to do anyway. And everyone listening at home, whether it be, the sculptor, the woodworker, or the guy who just loves to throw trash and wants to throw trash for the rest of his life. That's all art forms to me, love it. Do what you need to do. How did you decide that I'm just going to be that person? I'm not going to play the vibrato, because we hear a lot in the entertainment industry, especially. You have to fake it till you make it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But
right.
Your success path has been, you have to be organic and real, and you can eat.
Yeah. So that's a good point. And you mentioned something about being involved and being interested and, being humble, and going back to coming up and growing up where I did, and kind of building a career and maintaining that career in New York, where there's just so many people. There's so many players and so many great players. Most people,
Mm-hmm.
most places, there's a bunch of people doing it in any profession, particularly in the creative fields. There's a lot of people doing it, and some of those people are actually worth kind of checking out, or some people kind of,
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason, they kind of rise to the top. There's a bunch of good players, and there's a handful of great players. And the thing about New York is, there's so many outstanding players there that have come up there and that are kind of coming through all the time. The stock is constantly being kind of rotated. There's always somebody coming into town, and just having been there long enough and to see that there's always those core group of players who are who are always around, but there's always kind of a new crop coming up, and just
Mm-hmm.
realizing that, kind of seeing that, and realizing that there's plenty of other people out there doing what you do as good, better. You're not the only one, just kind of realizing
Mm-hmm.
that you're not the only one who does what you do, regardless of how good you do it. There's always somebody who's going to be at your level, above your level, or coming up close behind,
Mm-hmm.
which is cool. That's the community, and that's how communities grow and thrive. And then another big part of that, of what you asked me about, was when I moved from New Jersey to Memphis, and was involved in a completely new scene. I moved there. My girlfriend at the time, now wife, Abby, she had a job opportunity in Memphis. So she was there for about a year or so before I went down there. And it was a little bit of a leap of faith. It was a big leap of faith, personally, career-wise. Speaking about the career side of it, I knew a couple people. I knew a couple people in Memphis. I was kind of familiar with the music scene in Memphis, of course, with the history of things that have come out of Memphis, and I was a little bit familiar with kind of the contemporary scene. And so I thought to myself, I'll go down to Memphis. Abby and I'll be together. That's going to be great. Working wise, I'll do my best to kind of get involved in the scene, and kind of be a player down there. And if the drumming thing doesn't take off, if I don't meet, enough people, or if I don't kind of get in the scene, I'll still have my, that'll be more time to focus on my own songwriting. At the time I was working on my second solo album. So, I fixed case, if I'm not drumming that much, that'll be just more time to focus on my own music.
Right.
So it worked out that a great friend of mine, great great drummer, great friend of mine, George Chopek. He is from Memphis. He wasn't living there at the time that I moved down there, but he put the word out for me and kind of told me the places to go and the people to see, to just to kind of get familiar with the scene and get involved. And I went to, I took his advice and checked those people out and just kind of dove into the scene down there and made it a point to go out and meet people and see music and check out the venues. And like I said earlier, kind of networking. And it was done, again, to reference what you were saying earlier, organically and genuinely. I was genuinely excited and fired up to be in a new place and to be meeting new people, because that aspect of the music scene, it can kind of get a lot, sometimes when you're playing a lot, or sometimes when you're when you're doing your own thing, it's kind of hard to get out of your own head. And you have a night off and it's like, man, there's some stuff going on, my friend's playing, but I'd really like to just kind of stay home and just kind of and so there's effort required in going out and going out and meeting people. And if you're doing it, you can kind of force yourself, and it can feel like an obligation to go out and network, and which sometimes you really do kind of need to take a break and kind of reassess your priorities. But moving to Memphis, it was a new place, it was new people, it was a new scene, and I just had a great time going out and meeting people, and not with an agenda, not with like, I wasn't going out and shaking hands and with one hand and handing somebody my card with another or whatever, because there can be kind of a transparent, like sleazy aspect to networking, which people, especially people in the know, you sniff it out immediately. You can tell when somebody's not being genuine and they're just looking for what they can get out of a relationship, So I think that's a big part is being supporting other people. Of course you got to spend time working on your own thing personally, your craft and your person, and know thyself and all that stuff, which is super important. But also realizing that there's other people out there doing what you're doing, doing what you want to be doing, and go out and check those people out and meet them and support support other people, support your music scene, and be encouraging of what other people are doing. And again, not like I'll come out and I came out to see your show because when I have a show, then you got to come see me. It's like, yeah, in a perfect world, that would be great. But again, that's not really that's not a genuine act, Right.
Well, and it's transactional, and it becomes transactional. And that's where that sleaziness, that we talk about, when dealing with networking, that's when it's like, oh, bang, here's my card.
Right.
And really, I love how you pointed out, you really have to know to pick them out as quick as possible. But from a business point of view, you also don't automatically write them off. They've justified to me what the bounds of our relationship is going to be. And as long as it's mutually beneficial for both of us, and for most of those people, especially the business side of the music, it's mutually beneficial if it's going to make the money. So I'm like, okay, I know this person still likes to work with me because I make this person money. But I'm also not going to go and grab a beer with them later. I know that is the extent of our relationship.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is not as in other aspects, most other aspects of life, it's rarely, if ever, black and white. You don't want to be make so many snap decisions that it's like, oh, this person is whatever.
Right.
I'm completely writing them off after meeting them for 5 seconds. You don't want to do that because, who knows, there's a lot to be said for first impressions, but also who knows what somebody's going through on a particular day that they might rub you the wrong way, and who knows what, and people change.
Yeah. And also at the end of the day, there are some times you just, You never want a used car salesman around until you have a used car to sell. You know what I mean? And then I want that used car salesman around. Like, I want that dude to pitch me like he's gonna make $1,000 off of me. Because if he's pitching me to make $1,000 off of me, I know that already. I'm getting $2,000 off of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can quantify the relationship, and neither one of us are going to get our feelings hurt, because it wasn't about like being homies and liking each other. There is the business side of this, but you're doing everything again organically, which really opened up my eyes, because these are genuine conversations here. In a 2-year span, I opened for you, and then you were jamming in the same parking lot in 2 different venues with Mike Gowdy. I in 2 different bands. Now I do have a question. Yeah. Because the PT Barnum in me totally appreciated the 2 different bands aspect, and we're not going to give all the secret away. But
we can't give all the secrets away, and it is obvious on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City made EZ BlueZ is in the building. Continue.
So, like it was an obvious secret, but it was a secret, and we'll keep the air of mystery out there. But I will say this: the other side of the PT Barnum and me was like, did they get paid for 2 acts?
Okay, good question. So first, can we clue the audience in onto?
Let's peel it back a little bit.
Cool man, a little bit.
Yeah.
So Dustin came to in February of 2020. I was on tour playing drums with Mike Doty, great songwriter, great performer, also known as M. Doty, this lead singer of Soul Coughing. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of coincidentally, he moved to Memphis about the same time that I did in the beginning of 2014. And I had known him a bunch of years ago when I was playing drums with John Mayer. Mike Doty was just starting out his solo thing. So he opened up some shows for John Mayer, and I was a big fan of Mike's. I was a big fan of Soul Coughing. I saw Soul Coughing at Irving Plaza on the El Oso tour in New York City, and loved their albums, was a big fan of his. So we got to be friends during that time. That was like 2002. And then we kind of kept in touch. I actually auditioned for his band, for a band of his, a couple of years after we met. I didn't get the gig, which was cool. We stayed in touch. And then we have a mutual friend that another great drummer, Mark Stepro, who's friends with Mike. He told me when I moved to Memphis, Mark said, "Oh, Mike also moved to Memphis." So I reached out, whatever email I had of Mike's, and we kind of got in touch. So we reconnected in Memphis and did some gigs together, some improv gigs, a lot of fun stuff. And Mike invited me to go out on tour with him. It was a trio tour. Mike was singing, playing guitar. I was playing drums, and Andrew Scrap Livingston was playing bass. So we did kind of a Midwest tour in February of 2020, and one of the gigs was at Space. No, what's the venue called, Dustin?
It's the Space Ballroom.
Space Ballroom. So
you remember when it was just the ballroom because our connections with the scene out here. But we don't talk about those heartbreaking scars.
Right. So we played one of the stops on that tour was in New Haven, Treadwell at the ballroom, and Dustin came out to see us. And so the way we were working it on that tour is that it was Mike Doty was the band, that was the headliner. And the opener was a band called Baby Men, which was also a trio, which was also us. It was the same people. We put on ski masks, fluorescent ski masks and fluorescent jumpsuits, and did a completely improvised set of music, sounds, and we opened up for ourselves. The Baby Men opened up for Mike Doty, and we did double duty. And that was a question, and actually Abby asked me that question too, and I told her, Michael asked me to go on tour. I'm going to go on tour with them, and we're also opening up. She's like, "Oh, cool. Are you going to get paid? Are you getting paid twice? You get paid for the opening band?"
That's what I'm saying.
Right. And I never brought that up because I mean, sometimes you just kind of keep your mouth shut,
Right.
Understand.
Right.
Understand.
And probably there wound up being more in the original guarantee anyway. Well, and that's really what it comes down to. You might have got like the $200 that the local opener was going to get thrown into that aspect, so that they kick that to you. And
Right.
the word, as the amazing Frank Critelli says, not a lot, not too much, maybe just so they can put a little bit of gas in their car, get a little bit of Chinese food,
Right.
in their bellies, just a little
And
bit
it
of
was
something.
probably,
And that's all that matters as a musician.
it was probably accounted for in my weekly
Right.
pay. And it's like, I'm not, it's like, I'm not going to ask anybody to give me their account. I'm not going to audit anybody,
Right.
because
Right.
that's a great, talking of, that's a great way to not get hired again, is to audit your band leader,
Right.
But that was great. That was a super fun tour. I'm really glad that you came out to and you got to meet Mike for a second, right? Weren't did that
like 32 seconds.
32
yeah,
seconds.
boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fine because I 100% also believe in fate and destiny and all those kind of things. And he has been kind of a perpetual influence in what I've done, and even like towards like some of the solo stuff. Like when I was ready to just give it in because like I'm boring on an acoustic guitar, I would then say, "Oh, Mike's doing some things with this right here. I don't. This doesn't necessarily make sense, but it's completely beautiful, or it's so horrific. It's freaking gorgeous." Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm a passionate
he's great.
man.
Definitely
So I
great.
know our paths will cross at some point in time. I know that it is already destined in the stars for us to at least get a cup of coffee, or maybe some gas and some Chinese food when they get home for their bellies.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, man. So that was a good one. That was a fun.
Now,
that was a great. That was kind of serendipitous. Him and I kind of meeting up again in Memphis and doing that tour, and we did a lot of fun stuff together. I'm glad you got to see that.
Of course, me too. Look, man, I'm a fan. We know that I'm a fan. I will help push your stuff. I love it and all that. We've talked about how you got here. We've talked about some of the stuff there. But right now, from the other business side point of view of this, you have music that's out right now.
Yep.
In fact, you're doing a press up real quick, or you've done the press up for it, of this incredible idea and concept record, the second record actually, or second EP that you've done. Which from the mainstream pop aspect of it, we literally just watched Dropkick Murphys do the same thing. But you did it 5 years before, 3 years before.
And so fill me in. What did Dropkick Murphys do?
Dropkick Murphys just released a solo album that it's a lot of Guthrie songs.
A lot of what?
Arlo Guthrie songs.
Oh, cool,
or
man.
Woody Guthrie songs.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
So taking the folk element and putting it a little bit more towards the punk.
Yeah.
And here you are taking the Celtic punk element and kind of bringing it a little bit more towards the folk. Before that happened. What inspired this incredible project, and why don't you tell the people about part 1 and part 2?
Sure. So I recently released an EP called Songs of Shane Volume 2, and I'm going to do this. Got a couple CDs pressed up. Songs of Shane Volume 2. And so the Shane in the Songs of Shane is an artist named Shane McGowan, who was in a great band called the Pogues, Irish band that came up in London, and really kind of I don't know how to do a Wikipedia entry of the Pogues, but just a great band, great band taking Irish music. And, Shane came up as a teenager, as a young kid in the punk scene. When punk broke in London, he was right putting out a zine, and he was at the Clash shows, and he was getting his ear bit and bleeding at the shows, and legend. And then went on to write just really so many beautiful songs and made great albums with the Pogues. Before he was before the Pogues, when he was a youngster, he was in a band called the Nips, and then the Pogues, and then after the Pogues, he had his own band called the Popes.
Mm-hmm.
So back in 2000 and whatever it was, 15 or 16, I was on tour. I was booking solo tours for myself. I would book solo acoustic tours around the country, a bunch of shows every year. You know, each kind of season, I would kind of pick a region to hit up and book myself 2 or 3 weeks worth of shows. And one particular show was in a town called Brunswick, Georgia, and there was a venue called Heebie Jeebies, spelled as in, you know, take off on CBGBs. It was HBGB.
Right.
So Heebie Jeebies was called. And Tony Mills, a guy named Tony Mills, ran that place. And he had this amazing, he had a whole string of shops. He had a venue, he had a vintage shop, he had a comic shop, he had a tattoo shop in this town of Brunswick, Georgia. So he's also he's a Shane Pogues fan, and he had this mural. He made this mural of Shane, huge mural on the wall that really caught my eye as soon as I pulled up to the venue. And one of my favorite things to do on tour, just kind of in general, is taking photographs. And again, especially traveling, lots of opportunities for cool photos. So as soon as I saw that mural, I was like, I got to get a picture of that. Even better, I got to get a picture of myself in front of that mural, you know? So I had somebody snap a picture of me in front of the mural and thought to myself, that would make a great album cover at some point, you know, that'd make a great album cover. And, you know, what better, you know, and it kind of sat in my head. So this was like 2015 or 16 that I took that picture. And then, as I thought about it more as the years went by and I was ready to release some new music, I put out an album in 2018, full-length album that I recorded in Memphis. And then shortly after that, I set up a home studio in Memphis, my first home studio. And kind of my launch project for that was Songs of Shane Volume 1. I had kind of crowdsourced a bunch of Pogues material. You know, I've always been long time been a fan of the Pogues, but kind of reached out to people online about, you know, what are some of your favorite Pogues songs, and got a big list of songs that people picked out, and then kind of went through that list and thought of which ones I really liked, which ones resonated with me, and which ones I thought I'd be able to handle, like musically and vocal register wise. So I picked out 5 songs and recorded them at my home studio in Memphis and put out Songs of Shane Volume 1. That came out in 2019. I recorded that and released it on St. Patrick's Day of 2019. A couple shows for that. And then, you know, a bunch of time went by and I moved from Memphis to Atlanta. And during the pandemic in 2020, during lockdown in Memphis, I recorded a new EP called Dweller of original songs, which came out in 2021. I recorded it in Memphis, mixed it when I moved to Atlanta. And then I figured it was time, you know, a bunch of years had gone by and I thought it would be a good time to do a Songs of Shane Volume 2. And so I picked out another 5 songs and recorded those, you know, again, set up a new home studio when I moved to Atlanta. And started recording the Songs of Shane Volume 2 at the beginning of this year, recorded them and mixed them here at my Atlanta, and then put out a single, the first single called 5 Green Queens and Jean, put that out for St. Patrick's Day. And then in March, and then April 28th, I released the full EP. And it's been going well, you know, put it out. It's been getting some good feedback, some good press, and getting out to some good, you know, getting in a lot of ears and some spins and plays and things. And I wasn't planning on, you know, it was gonna be a digital release only. I wasn't planning on pressing up any product. But a couple weeks after I released the EP, and you know, I was promoting it on the socials, on Twitter and Instagram and all those things. And on Twitter, the Shane McGowan, you know, Shane McGowan's Twitter handle, or, you know, somebody with the Twitter handle, Shane McGowan, I wasn't sure if it was really him, said, thank you, very impressed, or something like that. And I was like, whoa, like, not only did he hear it, but he responded, and
Right.
which was not my intention. You know, I'm putting it out just kind of back in my head, like, you know, long shot, you know, dream scenario, like Shane MacGowan would actually hear this, you know, and so he heard it and responded, and you know, did a little bit of research and found out that it was actually his account, you know, and then I posted something else, like I shared his post, and then he responded to that. He said, "Send me a copy," you know, exclamation point.
Right. Yeah.
So at that point, I was like, well, I guess I need to print up something, you know, some sort of physical product. And then, you know, so I would have have a couple to send to him, and then also I could, you know, I could sell some as well.
Right.
So I got them printed up. I showed you before. I got them here. And oh, thanks, man. Yeah. So that is the, you know, it's online. You can check it out. So that is me in front of the Tony Mills's Shane MacGowan mural with a, you know, I put a. That's also what I used for the cover of Volume 1.
Yeah,
that I did
your own twist to it. Yeah,
put a little twist to it.
Yeah, looks really good. Absolutely, man. Yeah, definitely.
Thanks. So, so I got the CDs printed up. Was able to get my hands on an address in Dublin to send them to Shane, and around that same time, a great New York, a great songwriter friend of mine, a guy named Jesse Mallon, who I used to play drums with. Back in like 2004, 2005. And we've kept in touch, and I opened up for him in 2019 in the UK. I did about a week of shows opening up for him. It's a great guy. He had this rare a spinal stroke that left him paralyzed from the waist down. Yeah, it's really,
really unfortunate. Yeah.
Really crazy, really rare. I mean, just beyond comprehension. And so he's in the recovery phase, and there's a you know, a couple of crowdfunding places to go to kind of contribute to the Jesse Mallon Fund.
Yeah.
And so what I decided to do when I had the CDs printed up, you know, and I was going to sell them, what I decided to do was use the proceeds from the sales of Songs of Shane Volume 2 to send to the Jesse Mallon Fund. Right. And it's kind of fitting because Jesse is also a big Shane MacGowan and Pogues fan, and he's met Shane, and he's Jesse performed at Shane's 60th birthday celebration that happened a couple of years ago. And so it was just like you know, I felt an appropriate tie-in. So, you know, all proceeds that I get from the sale of the CD or digital sales are going towards the Jesse Mallon Fund. So that's what's happening now with the Songs of Shane Volume 2 EP release.
That's really
available
cool.
now. Yeah.
No, and that's again one of the most incredible things is this is when you hear the full story, it's 100% organic, but you know this is the stuff that the movies are made of. You know, you a genuine person, you still are that genuine person. You see this opportunity, and all these other things get tied to it because the story makes complete and total sense.
Yeah,
because it's real. You know, it's absolutely amazing. So instead of let's try to rewrite for the true artists out there. Instead of fake it till you make it, just be yourself until they love you.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned that because as I was not even so much making it, but you know, when you make something and you put it out, you always you have those kind of second guess moments, you know, right before you kind of hit publish, like, is this ready? Like, what am I doing? And, you know, I'm thinking like, I'm doing cover, you know, when you think of like covers on YouTube, you know, people covering like Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift, you know, things that are going to attract attention. And I mean, and which is great. You know, Justin Bieber's got great songs. Taylor Swift has great songs. Harry Styles, Prince, you know, there's like mega superstars that, you know, for as far as like, you know, building up, you know, getting a getting a more favorable like count or something. You know, there's plenty of more musicians or artists that you do that with, you know. But you know, the Shane McGowan thing, I mean, it's like, it resonates with me, and you know, people who are in the know, you know, some people get it and some people know about it. Hopefully some people will find out about him through the whatever, man. Not like anybody needs any of my help, but
still,
yeah,
the more people that can listen to the Pogues,
what's that?
the more people that listen to the Pogues, the better. You know what I mean? And that's the reality of it. We're looking out for the younger generations. They've got nothing but the tickety talk with the 30-second song on there, and it's not great. It's not horrible. I get it. I understand why they're doing it, but you know, it's quick. We're telling them. You're getting that story to them. When this gets caught up into social media clips and gets put out in that social media aspect, and those are the people who need to know that story, because that's what keeps us immortal.
Yes, it does on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven. I am so immortal right now on Behind the Brand. Myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City Made. EZ BlueZ is in the building. Continue, Easy.
It has been said in movies, it has been said in culture, you know, a human dies 2 deaths. You die your physical death, and when the last person who's ever known anything about you dies, you die again. You know, you're continuing a legacy. You know, and again, when we start to chop everything up and it becomes more social media aspect, it's not the hour conversation, it's a 30-second sound clip, you know, about how awesome the Pogues are. But they heard it from you. You have that different point of view. You know, I love the fact that when you released the volume 1, you sent it. You're like, "Yo, you should check this out." And I gave it a listen. I was like, "I really like this." And you're like, "I figured you would." You had that vibe. And I was like, "Oh, I feel so seen." You know. But that's the important aspect is, and that's what's going to continue to happen. And whether it be with the session work stuff that you've done, your name is on there forever. You know, you might not be the main character in that play, but you're forever tied to that play for eternity. It's a piece
and when you do the things that resonate with you, you know, and you're doing things regardless of the outcome. I mean, it's just nurturing. You know, it's like self-nurture.
Yeah,
which is important.
It's incredible too, because it is the funniest thing. Everyone's trying to crack the social media algorithm and different kind of things, but they don't understand that it's actually just the regular life algorithm. You know, you have to put out as much as you take in. You know, if you want your stuff to trend more on any app, make sure you're going to other people's pages. You're liking that. You're engaging. Make sure that the people who engage with your comments, you're liking it, you're commenting it. Even if it's that fake dude who wants you to send it automatically to blah, blah, blah to promote it, like it and say no thank you. It increases your reach in the algorithm. You're massaging, you're putting as much into that platform as you want to take out of it.
Yeah.
And you do that in life. You put as much into this passion project and you continue to push that passion out there, and you're getting what you put in.
Yeah.
You know, you're getting that understanding, you're getting that love, you're getting that respect, and you're able to move forward. And I do know that we're going to be coming close to the Apollo curtain to be pulled upon us. So I want to just give this moment. I want you to give one final piece of advice to that young musician that is, you know, about to make that jump, thinking about making that jump, or even that kid who's really wanted to ask mom and dad for a guitar or a drum set and just can't do it. Can you give us a little bit of advice there? And then right after that, the floor is yours. I want you to give everyone your social medias. I want you to give them, you know, how they can listen to your music. It is your platform, how they can buy these wonderful CDs. You know.
Cool. So question number 1, stay encouraged and be encouraging. in that order, because they talk like, why not be encouraging first, which is a good point. But the old thing where they always say you're in the airplane, you got to put your mask on first. You got to put your mask on first before you could. So stay encouraged and be encouraging. That's that part. And so you can find me at StephenChopek.com, StephenChopek.com. I update that regularly with all kinds of things, music, news, and the CD is on there. You can listen to the CD on there. You can listen to the new EP on there, as well as going back releases, singles from last year, the Weller EP from 2021.
Yep.
And, Songs of Shame Volume 1. It's going back, all kinds of stuff on there. And then you can get my socials from there too. Stephen Chopek is my Instagram handle. Stephen P. Chopek is Twitter. And then YouTube. You can, on the bottom of every page on my website, there'll be the social media icons that you can link to. And the physical CD of Songs of Shame Volume 2 is available from purchase on Bandcamp. And again, that's going to support the Jesse Malin Fund, his recovery after his spinal stroke. And that's where I'm at. I'm in Atlanta. If you are in or around Atlanta and want to meet for a coffee, I love coffee. Comes out here and you get bandits playing or your band's coming through, let me know. And let's connect.
Definitely connecting. Stephen, great hearing your story, brother. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Easy, Prestige, thanks for having me. It's been great. Appreciate it.
On WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven, myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City Made, EZ Blues.
Same old story.